Hello and welcome to another edition of Tractor Noise. And it was another big win on the road for Ipswich Town this weekend. 4 goals again for the second time running away from home, this time against Swansea. And another big result to take us into the international break. A good week all round, you would say. The only downside is I am here on my own to talk you through it. On my own today, unfortunately. I've got none of the boys available. It's the only downside, but at least I've got a positive result to take you through in this game. Back-to-back 4-1 wins on the road. We only had to put the ball in the net twice ourselves this time, courtesy of agent Cameron Burgess sticking the ball in his own net a couple of times. Very unlucky for him that we will absolutely take that. And it's another big boosting win that climbs us up the table. And hopefully that we can kick on after the international break and really get this season going after a good little run of results. But we'll go through more of that later on in the episode. Let's talk about the game itself first of all. I'm going to go all the way back to before the game and talk about the team selection because there's a couple in there that caught me off guard, I must say. And once again, I've said it a few weeks ago that I questioned McKenna's team selections earlier this season, and he completely proved me wrong. I think it was West Brom game. I think he proved me wrong completely. As the players he included or some of his substitutions linked up and scored the goal. I questioned the team when I saw it. It was 6 changes from Watford. That sort of thing was expected. It was a disappointing result on Tuesday night. We thought that we'd go back to a more towards what is our best 11 following that Watford game. But it did surprise me to see the change at centre half with Greaves coming in for Kipre. And also the change on both the wings with Clark and McAteer coming in for Philogene and Waller-Egley. I was a bit concerned at that point about the game. I think we all were. I still sending messages back and forth in our podcast chat then, questioning the team, particularly those on the wing. That obviously we know Philogene's been our best player this season. He should play every minute available as far as I'm concerned. But then Waller-Egley as well, who really seems to have hit his stride in the last 2 or 3 games in a row. He seems to regularly be impressing at the moment. He's getting in amongst the goal contributions now, which he wasn't after a bit of a slow start, and seems a bit of an odd one to me to drop him out of the team the way he's been playing recently. But fair play. There's a reason why Kieran McKenna's got the job, and I'm sat here talking about it because he knows a lot more about this team and about football than I do, and he smashed it out the park with the team selection. I thought it was a risk, but it was a well and truly risk that paid off on this occasion. Thought Clark especially played really well. Obviously opened the scoring for us. McAteer I thought had one of his better games. I've been a bit vocal on my criticism of him in past episodes as well, but I thought he played well. And Greaves are still open, I'd say, that other centre back slot because Kipre, he looked like he sort of nailed it down as being the one next to O'Shea. And then he had 1 or 2 dodgy games, and he sort of wondered if that opened the door up for Greaves again. But I think he played quite well. I think that's still a position of debate. It's probably one of the few positions of debate we have left as you were going to try and work through our best 11, I'd say. Especially now we enter into the international break. But we'll see how that one plays out on those sections. But I could say Clark especially, I thought played very well, and there was some goal to open the scoring from him. And good work from O'Shea, win the ball back high up the pitch. Took it in his stride. It's the best goal he scored this season by quite some distance, Jack Clark. He scored a fair few of goals. He's got a few penalties. He's been on hand to convert some rebounds in when we've needed him to after some chances have been missed against West Brom and Norwich straight away. That he seems to be at right place at right time with a lot of the goals this year. But this was a bit of pure brilliance from outside the box. Took it well in his stride after O'Shea's challenge. Held off the defender trying to get him back and just wrapped it into that far corner. Fantastic goal. A player who's playing with a lot of confidence now, although he's not starting too many games. You can notice it when he comes on. He's definitely enjoying being back down in the Championship. I think that he was one of those. We had quite a few on that list. We were saying last year there's a few players in the squad who didn't look like they were ready for the Premier League. Part of the reason why he was struggling there and thereabouts. And that players who he felt like needed a season back down to try and build the confidence and then hopefully go and attack the Premier League again the following year if all goes well. And say Philogene was one of those who's thriving now. Clark was another one of those who seems to have got his confidence back and just he's consistently looking a threat whenever he's on the pitch, whether that's from a start or off the bench in different games. And a really well taken goal from him to continue his high scoring season so far, which was fantastic to see. And actually, I want to say as well, Dara O'Shea I thought was fantastic. Actually, just going back to him, that it was him who won the ball back in the first place that got the ball into the feet of Clark to go on and score the goal. I thought O'Shea was brilliant. Again, someone who has taken a fair share of criticism on this podcast from a lot of us, and there's been some question marks about how often he should keep his place in the team. As when McKenna's rung the changes before, there has been question marks of why don't we give Kip Ray and Greaves a go together? Maybe sometimes. O'Shea, he's not had some fantastic games this year. There's a few performances that have been below par, but credit to him, I thought he was fantastic. One of the best players on the pitch, I thought, against Swansea, that on both sides, really. I thought he defended very well, a lot better than he has done in the previous games. And he's actually a really big threat in the opposition box, particularly on set pieces, which we seem to be getting a lot better at. That was a big problem last year and in the early few weeks of the season, but now it seems like we are generally getting better at them, and it tends to be O'Shea making the first contact and causing the problems. As you can see with some of the other chances and goals we've had over the course of the game against Swansea. I thought he played very well and set this one up. Speaking of set pieces in the second half, that obviously the Azon goal we'll get to in a little while, but he had another one where he kept the ball alive and he nodded it down with McAteer, who just poked it over the bar on the turn. Again, O'Shea being a menace in both boxes. Really, really, really pleased with his performance, I thought, in that game. And hopefully he sort of kicks on from there. He'll go away with the Republic of Ireland over the international break and see what happens with him from there. Probably gets at least one game under his belt there. Hopefully maintain this little bit of confidence he's built up now. He can kick on afterwards. That'd be good to see. But that chance was actually fairly unlucky from McAteer, I thought, as well. Thought he'd done things well. He sort of had to try and hit it on the turn. It was an awkward one for him to do. I thought he caught it well enough. It was just caught it too well in the end, really. It flew over the bar. It's a bit unlucky on that one, really. But I sort of wondered at that point, was it going to be one of those games? Because that was at 1-0. We thought we've seen it before. Well, actually, normally we see it. We don't score in the first place. Where chances go a begging, even though maybe not particularly clear-cut ones, but still scoreable chances go a begging. We don't kill the game off, and then we go and get stung. And in the end, that's ended up exactly what happened. And Swansea ended up the other end, equalised. Really poor goal from our point of view, I thought. I suppose the defence has been caught off by the first bloke missing it on the cutback, because I don't know, I can't remember who it was now, but he really should have done better with it himself, the fella in the box. But then maybe that caught the defence off, but nobody's picking Franco up. He strolled in from the edge of the box. He's reacted quickest to where the ball being missed by the original player. We're asleep. He gets on the end of it and he finishes it well. It's punishment for mistake, and he thought, well, here we go again. We've seen it plenty of times this season, particularly away from home. Obviously, I know we've won 4-1 twice in a row. Prior to QPR, the away form was shocking, and it felt like it was going to go down that sort of turn again, despite looking the better team throughout the whole first half and the early stages of the second half. But yeah, it's a really disappointing goal to concede, and I thought at that point, I don't think I'd have been alone in the thinking that it was going to be another one of those games where things started to go wrong and we ended up ruined, missed chances, and overall walking away quite disappointed. But wasn't the case. It was a fairly quick fire bounce back, only about 5 minutes, I think, something like that between the goals, which is a brilliant response on that front. And like I say, the first of two Burgess own goals. Very rare a player scores 2 own goals in a game, especially against his team, which is incredibly unlucky for him. But we know the sort of character he is. I'm sure he'll bounce back. I know he's put a statement out online after the game as well, that saying about he'll answer his questions, he'll answer his critics on the pitch after that performance. Say he's a good enough player. As far as I'm aware, he's fairly impressed with his performances for Swansea so far this year. It was a bad game, and then unfortunate as well that it was against his old club. But the actual build-up play for that first own goal was really good from Town. Really impressive stuff. Sort of the sort of things we got used to seeing in the old back-to-back promotion seasons. Fantastic hold-up play from George Hurst. Flicks it out to the left. Davis bombing up on the overlap. Goes to try and find that far corner. Just flicks off the leg of Cameron Burgess. Wrong foots the keeper. Goes into the near post. Obviously, a bit lucky on our part. Could have gone anywhere and it hit Burgess, but we absolutely take it. And I say the build-up play was fantastic. And on the balance of the game, we deserved to be in front. We're conceded very much against the run of play. We've been even at the admission of the Swansea manager at full time, we've been the better team from minute one. Deservedly went back in front, and then that sort of seemed to be the catalyst where we kicked on from there. That we didn't let it get us down, which I think was the big difference. To go 1-1, we could have easily been disappointed like that. Thought, here we go, another one of those games, and let it turn into one of those games where we just struggle and almost run out of ideas at times, which we've done on the away from home. But to hit back that quickly, great response to conceding, to the game going back level. Struck a bit of fortune in the goal, but you absolutely take it. And the response, I thought, was a lot better than we have seen in a lot of these games we go behind. Obviously, Charlton is always the one that comes to mind, where you concede against a run of play and 2 minutes later you're 2-0 down. That's always sort of the worst example you can compare it to, but a much better response to go back within 5 minutes, restore the lead, and I think that's where we kicked on from there. Swansea are a team you can get at. They're under a lot of pressure at the moment. They've been winless in 3 going into the game. Manager under a lot of pressure. A lot of sort of tide turning at Swansea by the looks of it, with the terms of the fans and everything. That was a game we always could have gone and got a decent result in if we turned up, and it's exactly what we did. And we pushed on and went on and got the other goals to kill the game off, which has been a bit of a rarity for us this year. So that's fantastic to see. But we also nearly conceded the second equaliser, which was concerning, but incredible save from Christian Walton in there. There was probably the defining moment of the game, because, like I said, everything I just said about 1-1, how we turned back round, would have been so much harder to do that from 2-2 had that Cabango header hit the back of the net. But it's a superb save from Walton at full stretch. Tipped it onto the post, got it back out, and like I said, I feel like had that gone in, it may well have turned into a pretty rough afternoon. Swansea getting back again, and then suddenly be like, right, we fought our way back into it. Now we have to go and do it again. I feel like that could have been maybe a challenge too far. I don't know. We might have kicked on. Like I say, we were the better team throughout. Even that chance again was against the run of play. But it just felt like a very defining moment. It was like, yeah, go on, we're up for this today. Tip that. Well, brilliant save from Walton, get it away, survive the scare, and then go and kill the game off. It's exactly what we did. Another set piece. O'Shea again making the first contact, draws a decent save out the goalkeeper, but all he can do is push it right up in the air. Ivan Athon, right place, right time. First goal for Town. Brilliant celebrations as well. Like I say, I think McKenna and Walton both came out and praised him in their post-match interviews. They're saying how much he's deserved that goal for the work he's put in. He's had a few chances. He certainly gets himself about. He looks fairly sharp when he's on the ball. I think he's probably just lacking a bit of confidence in front of goal, was the only thing for him on this season so far. Like I say, West Brom and Norwich, both times going back to Jack Clarkson, the ones he's finished off, both times there, either Nathan having the shot, you feel like probably should have scored both himself in that situation. Maybe he's lacking a bit of confidence, needing to get that first goal. Going to hit the back of the net, get the monkey off his back, and sort of push on from there, which hoping he does now. And he's done well. He rose up. I say it's a fairly simple goal for what he can take. It's kind of exactly what he needed, really. A little bit of luck, right place, right time. Heads it in from a yard out, gives us a bit of breathing space, and you sort of from that point you felt confident that we've had our struggles away from home, but you really didn't see Swansea scoring 3. So to get that 2-goal advantage fairly late in the game, you felt confident we were then going to go see that on, pick up another 3 points on the road. Then a bit of icing on the cake as well. We go and get the 4th goal as well, and then say really unlucky for Cameron Burgess again, but really good play from Azon in the build-up again. Actually, he thought he again had a really good shift when he come off the bench. Good ball down the line. Hughes just fires the ball in, and you've really got a feel for Cameron Burgess. They put one in his own net already. Part of the reason his team's 2 goals down, and then he knows Nunez is over his shoulder. He has to get something on the cross because if not, he's got Nunez waiting there for a tap in. He has to do something, and he's just got his legs in the muddle and turned it in his own net. That it was a player that you could tell the confidence was low after the first own goal. I feel like most other games you feel like he probably would have dealt with that, but it was clearly just something he was struggling with over the course of that game. And like I say, he had to do something because if he just let it go, Nunez was going to put it in anyway. So he took the risk. He got it wrong, and at the end of the day, so it would have been a Nunez goal, but in the end, it's a second Cameron Burgess own goal, 4-1, and really was game over at that point. I do feel for him. I really do. I really like Cameron Burgess. I thought he was fantastic last year. I didn't want him to go. I thought he was going to be a player who had a really key role to play this year. I thought actually, so surprised to see him go. And in the end, he ended up having a key role for Town in at least one game this season. We're putting in his own net twice, but disappointing to see for him because a very popular player while he was here. But certainly, from our point of view, in terms of this game, we will absolutely take it. We'll be delighted with another 4 goals on the road, another 3 points on the road, back-to-back wins after having such poor form away from home over the start of the season. It's hopefully we've turned a corner on that front. We know we've been fairly decent at home. Maybe the last few performances and results haven't been overly pleasing at home, but we know we're good enough to go and get results when we need it. It was the away form was the major concern, and hopefully we've gone and turned that around now, these couple of results, but we'll see how that plays out over the international break. But we'll talk more about that. We're going to have a quick break now, and then when we come back for the second part of today's podcast, we'll talk on about where we go from here, as obviously we hit the international break before we hit the busy time of the fixtures. But we'll be back with that in a little while. Welcome back to part 2 of today's Tractor Noise. I am flying solo today, reviewing the Ipswich Town 4-1 victory away at Swansea City from the weekend. A fantastic result that takes us into the November international break, where we get a little bit of relief from club football. And then actually it's probably coming at quite a bad time for Town is the only thing that I would sort of feel like this is a win that would set us up really nicely, build a bit of momentum, because that's 10 points from 12 now. Obviously, the Charlton game was a real wake-up call. It was a sort of panic of we thought we were starting to turn things around, and then to have a really poor result like that off the back of losing to Middlesbrough as well at the weekend before that. And that felt like the big moment of where we go from here, that Charlton game. Then I think you'd almost start to be thinking about pressure on McKenna if we continue to have a bad run from that game. But to turn it around, look, Watford wasn't great. It's a game we should have won. We had enough chances to win. We just didn't put them away. A disappointing draw at home against a team who is pretty poor away. I think they might be the worst away record in the league, Watford. That a game we should have won. But ultimately, if at full time at Charlton, and we've just been beaten 3-0 at home with one of the worst performances in McKenna's tenure, if someone turned around to you then and said 12 points from 4 next 2 weeks, we go into the international break sitting in 7th, 2 points outside the playoffs, you'd have taken it, wouldn't you? It's a good little run of games that we've had there. West Brom was always going to be a tough one, the way they set up, and then particularly in that game because they turned up and basically played for 0-0. They're going to be hard to break down. We found a way to go and win. QPR is a fantastic game. So Watford a bit frustrating, but still the performance was there. It's just the finishing let us down on the day. And then another really good performance on the road at Swansea this week. We looked like we maybe turned the corner from that Charlton game. The response has been fantastic after those 2 disappointing results in quick succession with Borough as well. The only downside, I'd say, is that we have hit that international break. We're at that horrible time of the year where football gets split up after every 4 weeks or so. And we just have that horrible gap where just as you think you're building momentum, you've got to have a week off. And look, we have a fair few internationals heading out, a lot more than we had done 5 years ago or something like that. A lot of the Irish team, made up of Town players in particular, but we just got to now hope we get through the next week without any injuries, really, because we certainly put ourselves in a much better position than we were after the last international break, going into the last international break. So we're up to 7th on goal difference now. We're 2 points off Millwall and Hull, who occupy 5th and 6th. Obviously, Hull to play very soon as well, in amongst the fixtures after the international break. A real chance to continue climbing up the table and sort of nail ourselves on up the top there and try and keep pushing on from this. Where we are now, we just, like I say, you just got to hope you don't get any injuries, because we're finding that momentum, we're finding that rhythm. We're getting a lot closer to nailing down our best starting 11 as well, which is a question we've posed for the last 2 years, really, is that do we know what our best 11 is? I think we're finally at that point where we do know probably 8 or 9 positions of it now, I'd say, our best starting 11. And whether it's a real good position to be in, we're still maybe with a couple of things around. We've got the squad depth is starting to improve. I'll say that we always look like we've got good depth on paper, but we had players underperforming who now seem to be hitting a bit of a stride. We've had some players who've been struggling, starting to hit good form. I mean, Jack Taylor comes to mind in that one. Pretty poor start to the season, really. Looked like he was struggling in a lot of games, but since West Brom has put in quite a few good shifts in there, sort of taking the spot off Cayuste, and what McKenna would put out as his sort of strongest team at the moment, it seems to be Taylor and Matasiwa as the midfield pair, and if everybody's fit and rested, so he's come in and made that spot his own. He's one of those that will go away on the international break, and so we're hoping that players sort of maintain their form while they're away as well, maintain their confidence, come back, and obviously those who don't go work hard on the training pitch, and we go and kick on, because it's the hectic time of year when we come back. Obviously, we're hitting those festive fixtures, back end of November, December as a whole. Games come thick and fast. It's the defining point of the season, really, in many ways. Like I say, we've set ourselves up going into that spell in a really good position compared to how things have been in previous months. And it's now, if we can kick on from here, pick up keep the rhythm going over all these festive fixtures. Look, we're not going to go for a perfect record in them realistically. There's going to be games we drop points in, probably be games we lose in and amongst them with that many games in quick succession, but we get enough points on the board, compete well, we'll have ourselves, by the time we hit the new year, hopefully see ourselves cemented in the playoff places, or even better. We try as high up on the table as can be as we then head into the run-in over the course of the new year. But like I say, thick and fast games. We've got the week off, international break, so there'll be work on the training pitch. Players will go away. We hope for no injuries, all of that. But then it's 3 games in 6 days when we come back. Wrexham at home on the Saturday, Hull away on the Tuesday, Oxford away on the following Friday night. So 6 days, 3 games, very minimal recovery between the two. There's going to have to be changes between all 3 of the games. And so it's where it's conveniently that we've had players hitting a good, decent spell of form in that time. Think of Adon, think of Clark, people who wouldn't normally start games, playing particularly well recently. There's a bit of confidence there and going around. Davis coming back from injury. Even Wes Burns is not too far away from coming back from injury as well. We're starting to reassemble the squad. Some of the injured players coming back as well. It's, like I say, it's going to be one of the most crucial periods of the season, because we're playing weekend, midweek, every week for the next month when we come back after the international break. With the extra game in there, we've obviously having to go back up to Blackburn at the start of December, which is midweek. We should have had 3. That's now got a game on the other side of the country we have to go and do. So we're hardly getting a reprieve. Every game's going to have sort of 2-3 days to go between. It's going to be constant. There's going to be, everyone's going to have to play their part. It's going to be a big part of the season that we try and kick on now. But this Swansea result, I think, leaves us in very good position. Yeah, like I say, the only annoying bit is the international break, because I think, in a way, it'd almost be better to go straight into these games 2 a week, keep pushing. Obviously, we had Watford on the Tuesday as well. We're sort of already in that rhythm. We've had a few midweek games recently. Games being a lot more regularly now anyway, even before internationals. I feel like we hit that good enough rhythm. So maybe, Watford weren't great, but there's still a point on the board, wasn't it? That you're not going to win every game in a championship. We know that. But I want to just kick on now, and we've just got to hope that everything we built over the last international break, or since the last international break, and particularly since that Charlton game, that we now push on, build from that even further, keep pushing. There certainly seems to be an upward trajectory back in the last month or so, and hopefully that continues, that we've got players who are hitting form at the right sort of times. We're getting these busy games. We're starting to score goals from a lot more different areas rather than just sort of being fairly reliant on Philogene and Hurst in terms of goal scoring, and Clark as well. So it was up until West Brom, we were pretty much at the point where, or even including West Brom with Clark scoring the goal, that we had those three all on a decent amount of goals, and everybody. Then we had a few others on one who were mainly defenders, but the other attackers are starting to get themselves amongst the goals now. Obviously, Nunes got a couple at QPR. As on getting his first goal at Swansea as well. That people are starting to chip in. Waller Egley hasn't scored the goal yet, but he's starting to get amongst the assists with some really good crosses he put in against QPR. Impressed against West Brom as well. Some of his play that with all these players who started the season a bit slowly are really starting to look like they've kicked on a bit now, and we can and then we're hitting that sort of time, and it's going to hopefully be an exciting time after the international break. This game, among the last few, has given me renewed confidence of the push of the season. That never really lost it. I say Charlton was a pretty low point where I wouldn't say make or break, but how we reacted to that game was going to decide the season. If we let it get us down and sort of continue to play that poorly for 2 or 3 more games, we would have been in a bit of trouble. But to bounce back straight away with the way we did, with the 10 points from 12 since that game, things are looking up, is what I would say. And I'm just hoping that continues after the international break, because there's some tough games, like I say, in there. I mean, Wrexham, they're a bit hit and miss, Wrexham, but if they turn up, they can give anybody a game. And case in point, they've come back from 2-0 down to beat Coventry, who run away, the leaders at the top, who seem impenetrable at times. They score loads of goals. They're fairly hard to score against. So if Wrexham can come back from 2-0 down against them, then they could certainly give us a good game if we're not on it. So we've got to be there. Hull looks like an increasingly big game. They still find themselves in and around the playoff spots. I think they're 5th. They're with 2 points behind them. Obviously, that might change on the Saturday beforehand, but to go there on a Tuesday night, potentially with a chance to overtake them and put ourselves in the playoff places, which is, if the table looks the same way as it does now, is a really big opportunity. But again, it'll be a very tough game. They're a good team playing very well. And Oxford away on a Friday night, not long, let's say minimal time to recover, Tuesday, Friday. Say even Tuesday, Saturday is a short turnaround, but you're losing the extra day with the game being moved to Friday night for TV as well. Going to be a difficult game. Oxford scrapping for points. I know they're struggling, they're sort of tumbling down the table in a position they don't want to be in, but they're still a very good side at home. They can pick up results. That we're going to have to be on the ball if those 3 in. And you look past that, I say they've got Blackburn coming up not long after. They've got some other big games in December. I think Leicester's in December. They're these sort of games that, well, there's no easy games in the Championship, full stop, but particularly tough run of games when you look at them coming up, that we're going to have to be on our A game. We've seen it with, let's say, what happens if we don't turn up, that you just don't get results. That's how it goes in the Championship. I think Birmingham away, we were poor, very lucky to get the point with a late penalty. Obviously, Charlton didn't play, just didn't do enough to win the game and end up losing at 3-0. That you're not safe against anyone in the Championship. So we've got to be on our ball, maintain the momentum we've built up now, and just please, no injuries over the international break. Let's start with that before we plan any further ahead. Let's get through the next week and have no injuries, nothing in training, nothing from the players who go away. Hopefully, you can say other players coming back. Davis just come back now, gets a week to make sure he doesn't aggravate anything else. Say Wes Burns has been back in full team training. Give him another week to get him closer to a return, to have more depth in our attacking options. We've got a few others. So Smollett's had surgery recently, so we'll keep progressing him, try and get him back to full fitness and really go and tackle this period, because I think we've got 8 games, between now and like the 20th. I think between now and Christmas, there's like 8 to 10 games, something like that, between now and Christmas. So by the time we come back from international break, that's like 5-6 weeks. Pretty much, say, literally between now, I think it's the 13th of December is the end of the run, where it's religiously Saturday, Tuesday, or so maybe the odd Friday night or Wednesday night in there, but a midweek, 2 games a week every week until the middle of December now. It's going to be busy. We're going to get injuries on the way, probably going to drop points on the way. It's going to be that period of time, but it's always a defining moment of the season, these hectic festive fixtures. And I think we're going into them in a much stronger position than perhaps we would have thought we would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. We see the cogs start to seem to be turning into the right place. I'd say the Swansea result, fantastic. Yeah, we got a bit lucky. Look, 2 own goals in there, but you create your own luck in a sense, don't you? Because we get in those positions in the first place. So Davis's shot looked like it was going to be on target. Maybe could have even awarded it as his goal. Maybe if you're confident it was on target. So Nunez was waiting there to tap that cross in from Cuesta if Burgess didn't put his own net. Like, we've got players in the right positions to force these mistakes. They just happened to be own goals on the day, but the attacking football was there. We were making chances. We were putting them away for once as well. Things seem to be heading in the right direction. That's sort of the positive note that I want to leave the podcast on this Swansea review episode. We'll a bit of a look ahead to the future as well before we have an international break. And then we'll come back. Hopefully we kick on and we can go from there. But I'll say I'm confident. I'm a lot more confident now than I was a few weeks ago. Of being able to turn this season around after a bit of a slow start. The squad seems to be gelling. All these sort of teething problems we had at the start seem to be filtering their way out. And when like I say, the morale's up, the confidence is up by the looks of it. And the points are starting to reflect that as well. Just 2 points outside the playoff places now. There's some big games coming up. We can try and get ourselves in there and push on from there. And hopefully things go on, things push on. We don't lose over the international break. And like I say, the number one thing is nobody gets injured. That's the main thing we want over this international break. But we'll leave it there for today's episode. Bit of a shorter one. Apologise for that, but say I'm on my own today. I can't throw my points back and forth off one of the other boys, unfortunately. But we will have more of us back to get on next podcast. We've got fun little things planned for you to fill the void over the international break. We'll still have our episodes out to you. We've got something in the pipeline which we think is going to be a fantastic episode, so keep an eye out for that one. And of course, we'll be back after the international break, starting with that Wrexham at home on the Saturday when we return. We'll be back with the usual review episodes and content from there, but keep an eye out over the international break as well. Like I say, we've got a very good episode in the pipeline for you coming up there that I'm sure you will love. But for now, it's goodbye from me, and we hope to see you on the next one.